what, like, this is again one of the videos I sometimes make where I don't really know where I'm gonna head with a video. I just want to share my opinion on something here. So I was reading this article here about what's from Stephen Hawkins, and our attitude towards wealth played a crucial role in Brexit. We need a rethink. It goes on here to say that he argued that it would be a mistake for Britain to leave, and he's babbling on about money and stuff like that. But my point is, I think wealth did play a significant factor in the referendum. I mean, for example, you had articles like this: if you've got money, you vote in; if you haven't got money, you vote out. And there's plenty of them. It was one of the ways division started after the referendum as well. You had the young people blaming the old people for ruining their future, even though the young people didn't even come out and vote. I love that argument, but still, then you had, obviously the division is still happening now. You've got Scotland versus England, because Nicola Sturgeon can't shut her mouth. And of course there was the poor versus the rich, or what the rich people like to say, and I've seen this multiple video comments and forums, the educated versus the uneducated. But you take away that insult and you really are left with the poor versus the rich. But how much did wealth really play a factor? Because at the end of the day, it's the Westminster that's resulted in so many people being poor in this country. That's not the EU, but benefit cuts have come around, you know, because their excuse is always that the country's struggling money-wise and that. So saying that the EU did play a part there, because the EU, and it still is, because we're still in the EU, it was bleeding us dry, bleeding us stupid, and to make allowances for that, they do what they needed to do. They take money off people, and it's not right. They should be playing with people's lives, but that's what they had to do. But you can't blame the EU directly for the result in so many people being poor, but it's the original starting point, in my opinion. I mean, the amount of people that are poor in this country is astonishing, if I'm honest. At least 13 million people, half of whom are in a working family, are living without enough to meet their needs. You've got food banks left, right and centre. The video I made the other week, they were collecting for a food bank. That shouldn't be happening in Britain. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be happening. And the reason I'm making this video is to start off talking about the EU, kind of, but I want to dwell into what I did in the other video I made on this, that nobody really takes poverty seriously. It's not really talked about enough. Nobody really understands how bad poverty can be unless they end up in that position themselves. And that's not that people are, you know, selfish or uncaring. They just live their lives and they don't see what goes on around them. Every single person they walk past, they don't know what sort of life they're going back to. You know what I mean? You live your life, and that's understandable, but I think there should be a serious overhaul on how poverty is dealt with in this country. And maybe now that we're out of the EU, even though, as I said so many times, I don't believe that the referendum was legitimate, there's obviously some underlying reason we were allowed out. But my point is, maybe the Dog and Pony Show may start releasing some good episodes instead of continuous bullshit and war conjuring and the sort. So anyway, food banks, something that's come about in the last couple of years. I mean, it's been around for a while, but they're on the increase in the last 2 to 3 years, and that sickens me, to be honest. That people are having to go to a food bank because they can't afford to live at least semi-adequate life in Britain. I mean, don't get me wrong, every single country in the world should be entitled to at least free water, free electricity, and some amount of food. And then it's up to the governments what they want to spend the rest of that money on. Everybody should be entitled to that, but here, Britain, you know, Great Britain, there's nothing great about it. The poverty shows that. They don't give a shit about you. They don't give a shit about me. They don't give a shit about any of us apart from their own. And that goes for the wealthy people too. Yes, there's the odd nice wealthy guy out there, wealthy family or wealthy organisation, but the majority of them do not give a shit about anybody, especially people below the poverty line, and even more so the ones that can't work. And that's why I want to focus some of my attention today on in this video. It's the increase in poor people that can't work, and it sickens me, to be honest, that there's not more put in place for them. Instead they just get more and more and more of their benefits taken away from them, stripped away from them. It's just fucked up, to be honest. I mean, my mother's on £110 a week. There's talks about that being cut down to about £70 or £80 a week. How the hell is she supposed to live on that? How the hell is anybody supposed to live on that? You know what I mean? £70 a week, £80 a week if it gets cut down to that. How are you meant to afford gas? How are you meant to afford electricity? How are you meant to afford food? How are you meant to afford the basic necessities that every single person should be allowed to have? But no, we've got a Tory government that so many people in England love. And you voted in a shower of shit that have done this. Labour was just as bad, but the Tories are twice as evil, if I'm honest. So we've got high unemployment, poverty and government cuts significantly associated with increased need for food aid, Oxford University research shows. Austerity policies such as cuts to welfare and local services are driving the rapid spread of food banks in the UK. The research shows emergency food aid is most concentrated in areas where there are high levels of joblessness and benefit sanctions. Now, benefit sanctions. The benefit sanctions. Now, for anybody that doesn't live in the UK, you might not have a clue what that is, but it's a very, very, very controversial thing. The job centre, you get paid once a month, last week of the month, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while since I've been there. And I was on £240 a month, job seekers allowance. I think it was. It could be. Yeah, I think it was. But if you put 1 foot out of line, that's it. You get sanctioned. You don't get any money for a month the first time, and then it can be after anything up to a year. You can get sanctioned for. And these are things that have been put in place by the British government. And what are you meant to do in that time? If you don't have any family to support you, if you don't have any savings, what the fuck are you meant to do in that time when you've got no money? Yeah, I mean, people, as I said, people don't realise that when they live their lives. They don't see this shit. But it happens. It happens a lot. And people have committed suicide because of this. And that in itself disgusts me. That people have been brought to that level of desperation over something that could be solved so simply if everybody was given adequate standard of living, with or without a job. But no, benefit sanctions. Now, you had to search 35 hours a week in the job centre. That's what I had to do. 35 hours a week. You had to prove that you did the 35 hours a week. You had to give them access to your job seeker account thing, and then they had to look for your history to see that you'd actually been doing 35 hours a week. And that's a hell of a long time to just be sitting there trying to find work. If that doesn't work, they will force you to apply for jobs that may be out of your skill level or in something that you may not want to do. For example, they'll make people with social anxiety apply for jobs in a shop or a call centre and stuff like that. They'll make people that have got absolutely no experience in the building trade. They'll make them apply for not even apprentice bricklayers, but they'll make them apply for a bricklaying job. People with no skills whatsoever when it comes to medical and all that, they'll make them apply for nursing jobs. If you don't do it, sanction. It's just ridiculous. They're playing with people's lives, and as a result, people end up on the food banks. It's just fucked up. Concludes more food banks are opening in areas experiencing greater cuts in spending on local services and central welfare benefits and higher unemployment rates. Tories, always the Tories, in it. Benefit cuts to make way for what they want to do, and beforehand it was paying the EU all that money, and they needed to get the money from somewhere else, so they just started cutting benefits. And don't even get me started on the migrants. It's an issue in itself. I've been called racist so many times now for voting out of the EU. I mean, it's nothing to do with racism, but I suppose the migrant thing does play a part in it as well, because, as I said in the video I made on this before, with this free movement of people, you know, I mean, there's a fine line between somebody coming over here to be a teacher or a surgeon or some high degree psychologist. There's a difference between that and somebody coming over here that doesn't have any intention of working because they don't need to. Because the benefit system allows them to come over here and stay unemployed. So yes, people will get pissed off with that. They'll cut benefits of disabled people and they'll cut benefits of the British unemployed to make way for the unemployed refugees or migrants. But no, you say anything, you're racist. Term racist gets thrown about far too easily these days, and that goes for homophobia as well. You can't say a damn thing about anything anymore. Well, I don't know what it is with the generations of now, but they're fucking so sensitive and not open to criticism, even though it's not criticism, it's fact. Sometimes, anyway. So anyway, don't want to dwell too much into this. Then we had the DWP, the Department for Work and Pensions, denies that stopping someone's benefits could force them to use food banks. I mean, what a joke. Absolute joke. There was no evidence linking soaring food bank use to the DWP's strict regime of benefit sanctions, Government Minister has claimed. Priti Patel, an employment minister, the Department for Work and Pensions told MPs that she did not accept claims by researchers that abruptly stopped someone's income could cause them to seek emergency food aid. Now explain to me how the fuck it wouldn't. As I said, if you do not have a job and you do not have savings and you get sanctioned for up to a month or anything over a month and you've got no income, explain to me how the hell you wouldn't need to end up using a food bank. It's lie after lie after lie from the government. As I said, it's a bit easier if you've got family around you to support you. But if you don't have that, I don't see how the hell you wouldn't end up at a food bank. And it's sad to know that food banks are on the rise and the government still don't care, because all they are concerned about is refugees and trying their damnedest to brainwash the public into wanting back into the EU with their shitty articles that keep coming out with the threats and the fear porn. As much as I don't like the Daily Express, it's about the only paper that's fucking legitimate at this point. And here's some examples of this fit for work shit. Now that's another scam. They find disabled people fit for work, even though they're not. So what happens as a result of that? It basically means that they have to start looking for a job. And while they're looking for a job, no employer is going to take them on. Now realistically, if you were an employer and you had the choice between a 30 or 40-year-old woman who had chronic arthritis or a 19-year-old healthy young girl, no problems at all for a typing job, you're not going to take that 40 or 30-year-old arthritic woman on, are you? You're going to take the young healthy woman on. So basically, a fit for work thing's a scam, because they make you look for work, so you're not entitled to all these benefits because you're trying to find a job, but nobody will take you on, so you're stuck in this continuous loop. And it's a scam. It's a fucking scam, to be honest. And there's so many people that are feeling this effect, and I think it's wrong. And it's just continuing. Again, nobody bats an eyelid, nobody cares, or maybe it's just they don't know. They don't know the truth. But it happens. We got here, Andy was badly injured on an oil rig, yet he's been judged fit for work. When it comes to the government's treatment of disabled people, we know all too familiar with the punitive fit for work test. The let's get this in a hyperlink. Widely scored assessments that determines who's eligible for out of work sickness benefits and who's not. But the story of Andy Davis, a disabled 55-year-old currently struggling through the endless hoops of the job centre, gives a stark insight onto what is often obscured. Davis, a former oil rig labourer, had his leg almost completely severed in an accident at work 20 years ago. As he's got older, the impact of the injury has taken its toll and he struggles to walk. Every step requires concentration. Either wince all day or doze off from painkillers. The damage to his leg is severe enough to mean he's been given a lifetime award of industrial injuries disablement benefit, and this year his doctor told him he's not physically able to hold down a job. Regardless, in May, the Department for Work and Pensions ruled Davis fit for work. Like every disabled or chronically ill person rejected for out of work sickness benefits, that means he has no choice but to claim job seekers allowance and look for work instead. But here's the scam. A lot of people end up having to, they're not allowed ESA, so they have to apply for JSA, job seekers allowance, but they're found too sick for JSA, and then they end up in this limbo in between ASA and JSA, meaning that they have no income coming from anywhere, no benefits, nothing is in place for these people. They're left in an unemployment limbo. So, again, a lack of care from our government is blatant. It's just ridiculous. When I get the assessment result letter, I went to the job centre and asked the advisor behind the desk who on earth is going to employ somebody with a GP's diagnosis as unfit for work. The answer came lightning quick back: nobody. There you go then. It's just a joke. An absolute joke. I mean, the fact of the matter, the benefit cuts do this, and more and more people have to use food banks. I find it ridiculous that they can deny this. It's right in your face. It's so obvious that this is happening. I don't know. The benefit cuts, you haven't heard about disability benefit cuts. This is another shock. It's disgusting. I mean, I don't know what to say. Jacqueline Bell spent 20 years working and stopped with great regret when she was made redundant by 2 successive employers for missing days because she was unwell. In her last job as a chambermaid in a hotel, her lung condition made it impossible to find the breath needed to make the beds. She would like to return to work but thinks it will be impossible to find an employer ready to accommodate her ill health. If she did go back to work and they found that for health reasons she was unable to maintain employment, from April next year she would expect to be in a much lower disability benefit than the 102 weekly payment she is now getting. The Employment and Support Allowance (ESA) for new claimants placed in the work-related activity group will be cut by £30 a week, a measure the government has justified by explaining that it will incentivise people to find jobs. Fuck me. See what I'm saying? 70 odd quid. My mother's going to be the same. Sensitise people to find jobs. But what happens if you can't get a job? That's the point. It's fucking sick. This one's ridiculous. Nurse makes heartfelt apology after ATOS forced her to trick disabled people out of benefits. Joyce Drummond reveals how thousands of genuinely ill people were set up for a fall before they had even been assessed by benefits from ATOS. ATOS is banned in America for being that corrupt. Or some states in America anyway. ATOS, don't give ATOS. A nurse has revealed how her own life was ruined after under fire benefits firm ATOS forced her to trick disabled people out of cash. Joyce Drummond's medical training meant she knew claimants were unfit for work, but she was told to mark people as fit if they could write or show up for an interview properly dressed. Eventually Joyce was carpeted by bosses for being too nice to claimants. Fucking disgusting, isn't it? After 5 months she was signed off with stress caused by having to trick sick people out of their benefits. She quit in July 2009 and hasn't worked since. Joyce said candidates were marked down if they looked well presented with neat hair and makeup, turned up with a toddler, could sign the application form. Public fury is growing against ATOS, who have assessed thousands of people with terminal illnesses as fit for work. Yes, I've seen cancer patients with 6 months left to live. I've been told that they can work. Well, who's going to employ that? Joyce said, I stopped working from ATOS 3.5 years ago, but I still feel sick every time I think of those people deemed fit for work when they quite clearly were incapable of doing so. I apologise from the bottom of my heart to all those who I had to assess during my 5 months in the job. But the decisions were out of my hands. Once I realised how manipulative the assessment system was, I got out immediately. The stress of it all has made me ill and I have not worked since. People's lives being played with. The last one I'll say, going back to the limbo that I was talking about, stuck in DWP limbo, sometimes I think I would be better off dead. Wow. The fact that people feel like this. I'm not going to read this article, it's basically what I was talking about earlier. You found fit for work, you're not ill enough for ESA, you try to apply for JSA and they say that you're too sick, so you're stuck in a limbo. Unemployment limbo. No money limbo. And then you got this prick and his little scrawny screws coming out and saying it's got nothing to do with the rise of food banks. Anyway, just wanted to make a video there. Might not be worth listening to, I don't know. All spawned, as I said. Wrong one. From when I was reading this, because I think that wealth would have played a part, because nobody really understands the lower class society with the income they get and the lives that they live. Nobody bats an eyelid. I'm not saying they don't care, they just don't realise and they don't bat an eyelid. But I think to say that the cruelty and the bullshit that is being placed upon these poor people, I don't think that you can blame that for them voting out of the EU, to be honest. I think that's getting it twisted to an extent. The rich people voted to stay in the EU because it benefits them, yes, but I think there's plenty of other reasons that people voted out of the EU. I don't think being poor was strictly one of them. But anyway, whatever, man. Peace.